Okay, so the first one, pretty simple. Let's play around with the font size. What CSS property do you think we need if we're playing around with the font size?
Label.
It's not a CSS property. Label is a selector. Font family? Why font family?
Font size.
Font size, right? We're playing around with the font size. The CSS property we need is font size. What should we set it to?
50.
Yeah, it says in the question 50 pixels. So 50, what's the shorthand, if you like, for pixels? PX, right? That's the unit we use, PX. And then don't forget in the CSS training we need to write both the label and the CSS. Again, I apologize for everything being so small, but it's the way it is today, unfortunately. So we've put some styles on our label selector. So what element do I need to put in my HTML? Label. A label element makes sense, right? We've got the styles applying to a label. We can directly put a label tag. If you haven't found it already, if you just open the closing tag and hit tab, that should close it for you. Might save you a little bit of time. Where do I write the hello? Inside the two tags, right? Between the tags. That will create a bit of text. I don't think I need to do anything else. Right? That should work. Don't really think I can zoom in anymore. No, it just all goes bonkers if I zoom in anymore. Run that code. Fantastic. I've got a little syntax error. It says no trailing white space. So by accident here, you see that I put an extra space, and that has actually forced my elegance score down if I submit that. So just watch out. That might be one of the reasons you're getting just after the label, Faraj. I've just put an extra space.
100% is you need to watch all those.
Yeah, 100% you need to watch all those little spaces. Make sure you check your elegance console before submitting. So I had a warning in my elegance console. I've deleted it now, and if I rerun the code, there should be no elegance issues. So that means I have not got penalized on this question because I've fixed it before submitting.
So if you evaluate it
Yep.
before submitting,
Yep.
do you still does it count towards?
No, that's what I just said. So now I've fixed it, I will get no penalties when I submit this question. Yeah, if you press the green one, what's that?
I think it penalizes it.
Shouldn't do. It should only penalise you if you hit the green one.
Oh, really?
Yep. Some people hit the green one straight away, and we think that's why people are getting lower elegance scores. I've done it, right? I've done it. I've done it on a lot. I think I've done it on all 3 platforms, but the code is the same. I've made mistakes, fixed it. I still get a score of 100. So I do not think it penalises you.
Does the time? How does the time affect it? So, for example, if you've got everything correct,
Yep.
but you're taking a bit of time to get it perfect,
Yep.
the time actually gets hit, and then that's not 100%.
So you've got to weigh that up, yeah? So if you're taking too long to fix the elegance issues, it might be better to get a penalty on your time as opposed to your elegance. Who knows, right? The questions give you a set amount of time to solve it, and then you'll start getting penalised if you take longer than that, yeah? Exactly how long it gives you, I can't even remember, so I'm not going to tell you. Yeah? Alright, so that was it for that one. Create your tag. Stick in your bit of text that matches what we need on the screen, and put your style in there. Yeah, so this bit is the CSS selector. Can belong to a tag, a class, an ID, other things we'll see. And then put your CSS property before the colon, then your value, and then finish it off with a semicolon. Right? That's the general syntax for all of our CSS.
I wrote something way longer, like div equals
Yes.
quotes.
So you might have had a div outside and then a label inside, other class names, all these things. Sure, you can have those.
You don't need them.
In this case, you don't need them, no, because we've only got one label and we're not going to get confused with our other elements on the page. But yeah, often you'll need class names or IDs to differentiate your elements so you're not mixing up your styles. In fact, on Wednesday, Ricardo will talk about specificity, which in other words means what style gets applied to your element when numerous styles or numerous selectors down here at actually selecting that element. What gets overwritten, what is the final style? And it depends on the rules of specificity. Yeah, which has a higher specificity. What selector has the higher specificity will get the style applied. Yeah, otherwise we can get mixed up with what style gets applied and what gets overwritten. So that's this Wednesday morning. Ricardo should talk about that, unless he changes his mind. But that's what I've suggested he will talk to you about. Okay, moving on. Hello from the 90s. Again, looks like it's inside a label. So if I just create, my label tag. This time, what do we need inside? We need the text, hello from the 90s. Capital H, thank you very much. So make sure you pay attention. If you are going to drop it down onto 2 lines, label should be inline. So opening and closing, and your text should be indented. Yeah, like that.
The tag, you can name it anything you want as long as it has the same
The
value.
tag, well, you can and you can't name it anything you want, because tags have specific names in HTML. Yeah, there is such a thing as a label tag. There is such a thing as a div. There is no specific thing called Sebastian. Oh, no, try to spell your name. Sebastian's great tag or something like that. Yeah.
What a relief.
Yeah, if only, right, Sebastian? Maybe in the future, when you become a HTML wizard, then you will have your own tag. But for now, let's stick to the ones defined in the markup. Yeah, in the markup language, and label is one of those. All right. What do we need in this one? Could you please display some text using a serif font with a size of 40 pixels? What 2 CSS properties are we going to need? Font family is the first one, absolutely. What value should we give that? Serif makes sense, yeah? And we also need font size, fantastic. And what value are we going to give that based on what's in the question? 40 pixels is what it's asked for, so 40 px. I think that's it, right? Run it, check if we made any elegance mistakes. Oh, look, again, I've done something. Line 2 and line 3, I seem to have some random spaces again. So where I've, don't know why that's, yeah, go away, thank you. So if I just take off those, run it again. Can someone mute there? Thank you. Yeah. And again, no problems now, no elegance issues, and that should not penalise my score. If I hit it before, it would have penalised me based on those extra spaces. Cool, good stuff. Careful with the padding. Yeah, I think this is the one that caused the most issues for people. So you probably realise we need some dimensions on our div. The HTML is done for us. I don't think we need to change that at all. What 2 dimension properties do I need to give my div?
Width and height.
Width and height, yeah. What's the width value going to be?
100%.
Absolutely. Oh, not 1,000. And the height is going to be 50%, 505, yeah. Okay, now if I run that, which probably a lot of people did, I don't get the correct answer, right?
Yes, you
Let's run it. Ooh, what's happened there? It seems that the box we've returned is a little bit bigger than the box we want. Yes, we returned it. It seems to be going off the page and slightly higher than 50%. Why is that? Can anyone explain why that is?
Yes, the pixels, it's considered with the padding and the border type.
Yeah, so the default way of styling CSS will take these widths and heights into account, and then it will apply the padding, the border, the margin, in addition to our set widths and heights. So in other words, we've got a width of 100% plus 10 pixels each side, plus a border of 2 pixels each side. So in other words, we've got a width of 100% of the screen plus 22 pixels, which is why it looks like it's gone off the side. That was the default way of designing in CSS for quite a long time, and it was quite frustrating because you'd have to work out, Well, actually, if I want the correct width, I'm probably going to have to do this. So I think I might even have to put a calc right in there. I might have to do some sort of calculation and do 100 pixels minus 100% minus 22 pixels on the height, and I'm going to need to do the same on the on the width, and I'm going to need to do the same on the height, right? I think that would get me my desired result. This is not the way to do it, but I'm just showing you for demonstration purposes how annoying it used to be. Let's try that. Yep, so that's correct, right? 100% minus 22 pixels actually gets me 100%, and 50% minus 22 pixels actually gets me 50%, because we need to account for the padding and the border. Please don't do that. There's a better way now to make sure that when we're allocating our percentage styles, that's the final size we're going to get. So we just want to specify, yep, I want the width to be 100% and the height to be 50%, right?
If I use that calculator, is it going to take more CPU time?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Slower?
Doing that calculation is probably going to be slightly slower, right, than just setting the property. I don't fully know, to be honest, but I imagine so. Notice in the resources, we've got links to the box model, which is what Aeneas explained last Tuesday. Yeah, that box at the bottom of the inspector tools in Chrome DevTools that showed the nice coloured boxes with margin, border, padding, and our actual content as well. That's what we refer to as the box model. And my calculations there were based on the box model, right? Deducting parts of the box model to get our actual width. In modern CSS, we've got this box sizing property, which makes our lives a bit easier. If we type box sizing as a property, and there is a value called border box. I think the default, I always forget it, is it border content, box content? I always forget now, but the default value that we've just worked out is something like that, box content or border content. And you said box sizing border box, yeah? So that is the one we want to enforce that our height is 100% including, look at the little bold bit there, including the padding, and that will also include the border in this case as well, yeah? So box sizing border box is that little trick that makes setting the dimensions of our box a lot easier. So this line, box sizing border box, I usually put as one of my resets at the top of my page. So I don't know if you know how to do that. You can select all elements using this star. And then, yeah, you might want to do margin 0, padding 0, those sorts of resets so that you set your own. Oops.
No, do what you're going to do, I want to see it.
Yep, so you might often see things like that as a reset. But I also do box sizing. Oops, can't type again. And we want to do border box, yeah? So I often put that there at the top of my style sheet, just so that when I'm calculating my widths and my heights, I know that I'm using this border box model, as opposed to having to deduct my padding, my width, and all these sorts of things, yeah?
Okay, now, but I still have to use the margin 0, is that correct? Or if I use the margin 0, will that be sufficient?
In this case, it doesn't matter, but say we were using header elements, they would have some preset margins and things like that, yeah? So in this case, I could obviously get rid of it out of there, and my box sizing would get applied to all elements. That would also work. All right. So a couple of options there. But yeah, I love the box sizing border box property. I think it's great. Makes designing with CSS a lot easier. And it's something I find quite frustrating, right, working with CSS sometimes. It's a good skill to learn, as Ricardo said, right? They want programmers who can also look after the... Right, that's it. We got it on recording, that's okay. It's an impressive one. So yeah, I just love using that property. Makes our lives as designers a little bit easier. Okay, any questions on that, the box sizing? No?
You're going to use box sizing from now on.
Yeah, use it everywhere.
Second one was that question was hard.
Okay, moving on then. Alright, padding. So I think we need to add some padding. Where do we need to add the padding? Regarding the gutter handling on the parent component. So out of these two elements, what is the child and what is the parent?
This is the parent, H3 is the child.
Yeah, why do you say the div is the parent, Ahmed?
Because this H3 is inside the div.
Yeah, the H3 is inside and the div is the outer element. So the common terminology that we use for tags like this, and you'll see it with functions as well, yeah, functions, components in React, we often refer to them as parent-child. Yeah, the parent is the outer element, or tag in this case.
And that div is the child of body, if the body, you cannot see it.
And yet the div is probably the child of the body, or some other div, or some other element, but we're just getting a little snapshot of part of the HTML file rather than the whole thing in this case. Nice. So if I am applying some gutter on the parent component, it needs to go inside the div, which is the parent. We've got 4 values here. So do we need to write padding top and then padding right and so forth?
No.
We don't need to, we could do, right? This is the explicit way of doing it. We could have 4 different properties with 4 different values. That's fine. But it makes more sense, as long as most people in your team know that there's a padding shorthand, that we can write the 4 values in one.
Yeah.
What order do they go in?
Right, bottom, clockwise.
Yeah, clockwise from the top. Yeah, so top, right, bottom, left. It's the order we do it in. So therefore, that's the same order as they've been declared to us there. What do I do? 10 pixels, semicolon, 20 pixels? No? No. Okay, no, it wouldn't work. So we just put spaces between each value. Yeah, and that's the syntax for any shorthand in CSS. Just put a space between the separate values. So we've got 10, 20, 5, and then 30, right? Oh, and I did the silly semicolon thing again. Sorry about that. And I think that is all we needed in this case. Let's try. Absolutely, yeah. So that was just getting you used to padding shorthand and checking you know the order. Of course, if we did these in a different order, it wouldn't work. Well, it would work, but they'd be not the allocation, not the correct values that we need. Yeah. Okay, moving on. Are there any questions? Move on. Sweet. Ricardo was just saying hello there, obviously. Just thinking about us. Okay, let me set this one up. So what goes in the HTML first?
Body.
Body. Like that? In a tag, yep. So a body element. Oh, that was interesting. I hit tab and I got a label. Let's try that again, yeah. I've got a body. What goes inside my body?
If you like
A what? A p tag?
If you want.
no,
Yeah, if you want. We can start adding lots of tags, but
just put that text in there.
let's just put the text, right? If you like RGB, comma, wait until you, oh no, wait to see RGBA. Something like that. If you like RGB, comma, wait until, oh no, wait to see. Wait to see RGBA. Yeah, I think I'd say it slightly differently, right? In my own language, I'd say wait until you see, but hey, no worries. What do we need to set? We need to set, looks like the background color. So I could write background color. Is that a valid property?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do I type? Cerulean. This is what some people have written in the past. Just type cerulean. If I do that, unfortunately, it's not. Oh, I haven't done it correctly. So maybe cerulean's not predefined.
It's RGB. Let's type RGB.
Yep, I'm just pointing out an error that some people used in the past, so please don't make the same mistake. So we've got numerous ways, right, of setting color in CSS. Sometimes we can just type the color, for example, red. If I did that, I would get a background of red. We could use RGB. Open brackets, yeah, I'll talk about hexadecimal in a second. The 3 RGB values for our shade of cerulean are going to be 0, 170, 239. That should work. Yeah. You've also got RGBA, which this question hints at. If I put RGBA, do I need to add anything else?
Yes.
Yeah.
What does the A stand for?
Alpha.
Alpha, yeah. So essentially how bright or how saturated the color is, yeah? So if I want it to be exactly the same as RGB, yeah, I put a 1 there, yeah? So full color, yeah, not some sort of wishy-washy faded watercolor style. So that would be equivalent as well. I don't know if I could get away with it if I put not 1. Let's have a look. If we put like 0.2 or something, very faded. Yeah, it doesn't like it, right? You see this? You probably even can't see it. It's just a very, very pale cerulean color. Yeah, it's not quite white, but it's only 20%. You know, like mixing your paints, it's only 20% of this cerulean color by using a 0.2 there. Or what's another way of setting color? Hexadecimal. How do I write hexadecimal colors? What sign? Hash, yeah. So hexadecimals must be preceded with a hash. And then, for example, if I wanted to use black as a background color,
6 zeros.
6 zeros, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Yep.
Oh.
Or I could also do 3, which is doubling up each unit. But it makes sense to put 6 in this case, right? Just so that people understand that we generally put 6 values as our hexadecimal color. So our values don't have to just be between 0 and 9. Hexadecimal means we can use things up to 16, yeah? So something like F is actually a valid hexadecimal number, if you like, yeah? So 10 would be A, yeah? 11 B, C, D, E, F. Yeah? Something like that. 0 to 9, then A to F is hexadecimal, yeah? Don't know what colour that's going to be, let's have a look. Pretty black still, yeah? And make it quite light. Now we got a greeny sort of colour, yeah? 0, 9, FF, 0, 0. I'm just making them up, I don't know. I can't convert cerulean to hexadecimal in my head. Maybe some people can, but... Yeah. Sky blue or something, isn't it? Cerulean, yeah. Okay, background color. Did anyone use another property apart from background color? Did everyone use background color? Could I just use background? Yeah, that also works, just using background. I didn't put my semicolon there. Remember your semicolons after each property. So you can use background as well. And in fact, background is a shortcut. Right, so it's another one of these. You can set multiple properties in one. Yeah, you could set the background color, lots of other things. I don't know. I don't actually know, but let's quickly Google. All right. Background CSS. What is it shorthand for? Whoa, look, all of these. Background color, background image, background position, size, repeat, origin, clip, and attachment. Woo. But notice the first one is background color.
But you cannot use all those just typing background.
You can use all of those by just typing background and separate them with spaces. Hopefully it gives us an example somewhere. Essentially like that, right? Background and then all of that. Yeah, I don't think there's any option to try an example, but yes, you could set all of those properties in one rather than having to set them separately, the same way as we did with padding. Yeah, padding top, padding bottom. We just wrote padding. You can do the same thing with background to set multiple background property values in one property. Yeah. Cool. And surprisingly, again, take these tests with a pinch of salt, but some people have done some tests on what's more performant, background color or background, and it seems that background is more performant. Don't really know why when it has the potential to set all of these properties and background color just sets one value, but that was how the tests come out. So yeah, you might want to use background. It saves you typing two things, 2 words if you're really lazy rather than one. And that's about it.
Can you shorten background?
Can you shorten background to what? BG?
BCKG or something like that?
No, not without snippets or some sort of alias that you set up yourself. Yeah? It's not part of the CSS language. Okay, any questions on beginner? No? Alright, intermediate then, as requested, yeah? I'll leave that one.
Question number 3, please.
Question number 3, I'm just going to go through them in order again. I think we've got a bit of time. Well, not much time actually, have we, to be honest? Still what we can. We'll definitely go through 3 and we might just do the first 3 questions then. Is that right?
Yeah.
Or we could do 2, 3 and 4? Let's see.
Let's do
Let's
the
see.
first.
Let's do 3 first.
Because the rest is like in Greek.
Ahmed, you take over, right? You're very demanding.
It's just from one side, work our way up.
Did everyone get the first without looking?
You should go for 1 to 2.
Let's have a look at some code, what people wrote. So most people did indeed get the first one. There were some differences. I think Ahmed was just laying it out slightly differently, but there's not really any difference. He's used some different class names, yeah. So he's used a section as to differentiate between his divs.
It's not necessary. Actually, mine is right.
They're all right, Ahmed. Yeah.
Because he's telling us it's
All
not
the ones that
necessary.
green on it.
No, he said it's not necessary. So I'm in a section. When you have a section of the code, you use the section tab.
Yeah, so depending on what you were styling, section might be more semantic. If you were using section though, and you've got a separate tag like that, do you really even need class names? Couldn't you just get rid of class container and class box? Could make it even shorter, right?
Yes, you're absolutely right.
And then you could style down here, just have section for that first one and div for the next one.
I didn't think of that. Next time I'll think I've learned something new.
They're all very similar, aren't they?
They're all very, very similar.
Everybody copied each
But
other.
what if I have more sections?
What's that, Ahmed?
What if I have more sections? That's obviously.
Well, if you have more sections, yeah, then you might need some class names, right? But
Exactly how I was saying to them.
Well, you sent me the place. In general.
So I'm saying exactly.
did anyone try and put padding or margin on this before getting the final answer with
Yes.
gap?
Yeah.
Yeah. Same when I first did it. Yeah, definitely. It's not obvious from the snapshot, is it, whether the padding or the margin extends to outside of the element? Well, at least I couldn't tell just by looking at it. I forget the exact wording. Doesn't give me it there. Does it give me it somewhere? No. And also notice some people have put grid gap. Others have put grid row gap. Why does grid row gap work?
It's a shortcut for the column and the row.
Grid row gap. But what about this gap? What's setting this gap? Oh, you've got a grid column gap as well. Sorry, I didn't see that. Yeah, so you've got both. You've got grid column gap and grid row gap. The shortcut for that is just to write grid gap, and that will put your 10 pixels both between the elements on a single row and the elements on a single column. Yeah. Again, that's a shorthand for these two properties combined: grid column gap and grid row gap.
I have a question. They used to repeat.
Yep. So some people have used a repeat method to set two columns, both of one fractional unit each. Other people would have probably just written 1FR, 1FR. Let's find one. Yep, down here, 1FR, 1FR. So I think I would probably only use the repeat method if I had lots of columns. Let's say I had 10 columns or something. I'm not going to write 1FR, 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 1FR 10 times. I would just write repeat 10, 1FR. So whatever you find more clear to read for both yourself and other developers you might work with, yeah? If I put 1FR 10 times, it's not going to be very readable. Yeah, they're going to have to sit there and count it probably, or how many columns has he actually got in this layout? Whereas if I use the repeat statement, it will say 10 there, and I will know that I've got 10 columns. For 2 columns, doesn't make much difference, right? Anyone spot any other differences? We've got, what's this? Oh no, that's item. I thought it just said EM, but that's the item. What about this one? Esteban.
Oh, yeah.
Did you get any penalties for that? I imagine you would.
I don't know.
Yeah, probably you got a penalty for that, Esteban. So with attributes in HTML, we don't put spaces between the equals. So this is different to JavaScript, right? A bit confusing, but that's just the way it is. And the same for the container. Yeah, there's also a space there. You were consistent at least, but consistently wrong, Esteban. So so try and be consistently right, which you are most of the time. Right? Anything else? Color. So someone here has used a hexadecimal color. Was that? Oh, yep. So that's Kathy used a hexadecimal color. Other people have just written the color black. Absolutely fine. Black's probably more readable, right, when you're working with other people, which is usually always. Yeah, but well done, right, for getting that answer. I think it took you a little while, but by process of elimination and teamwork, you got there in the end. Okay, the next question was the good, the bad, the ugly. Yeah, let's do this one quickly if that's all right. Who shall I go with? Alpha was the winning team. Charlie was one short. I'm going to join Charlie. Oh, I've done beginner somehow. That's a bit weird. So let me go back one. That is beginner, yeah. That's why it's doing that, obviously. Come on, just leave. Stuck in an infinite loop of beginners at the moment. How about if I go back here? Will that get me? That looks like intermediate, right? Open that again. Don't need that anymore. Skip that one, we've just done it. Alright. So what sort of question, what sort of layout does this look like? Because eventually you should be able to just look at layout and think, oh, that would really suit using this sort of display method or this sort of CSS. So just from looking at that, what do you think we need? Flex, did someone say?
Yeah.
So why not grid?
It's not complicated. It's
Yeah, it's a simple three-column.
Yeah, it's not complicated. So Ricardo said if we have something in one dimension, in other words, just rows or just columns, then usually we can do it with flex.
Exactly.
If we have something in 2 dimensions, grids and columns combined, then, sorry, did I say rows and columns combined, then grid is probably the way to go. Yeah? So this case looks like flex to me. If we have something set up that needs flex, generally, what 2 things are we going to need? Well, what 1 thing are we going to need on the parent, and usually what 1 thing are we going to need on the items?
Container.
So the container itself, the parent, needs what inside it? Ed? Display flex, indeed. Yes, this is just setting up so that we can use our flex properties. Display flex goes on the parent only, and then usually what do we put on the items just to make our lives a bit easier? Flex 1 is usually the thing that we need on the items just to make our lives a bit easier. And this will make the element shrink or grow to fit the available space, and yeah, just in general makes the layouts a bit more, I don't know the word for it, but yeah, often we need flex 1, yeah? By default I'd put that, and then only remove it if you've got a specific case. Cool, I've briefly got to set this up, so yeah, alright, as we got class names, I suppose we might as well just go with divs all around. So that's my parent div. Inside, how many divs do I need? 3, yes, because we've got 3 separate elements here, the good, the bad, and the ugly. What class name do I need in my parent? Good, yeah, good. It won't work because we're not in React. This is not JSX, so it's not class name. Make sure it's class when we're dealing with HTML. I did do that on purpose, believe it or not. Thank you. Yep, container, it looks like. What class name or what class do we need, class attribute do we need inside the inner divs? Fantastic. Item, let me just duplicate that. Oops, and then finally we need to just set our text values. So we've got the good. It's not really worth copying and pasting, really, is it? But the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay, let me get my capitalization right. Okay, looks fine. What things do we still need to do? I think the HTML is done now. Correct me if I'm wrong. We've got a display flex. We've got flex 1 set. If we read the question, let's display these 3 characters, so the 3 elements if you like, in 3 columns. Yeah, but we should already have that. Separated by 10 pixels gutter between them. Important, the gutter only applies to the horizontal space between columns 1 and 2, so here, and 2 and 3. So in other words, the horizontal gutter to the left and right of the bad element.
We need another item.
We need another item. What do you mean by another item? What, I just write item again?
Item 2 or whatever. You give it
Item 2. Okay, we'll go with this approach first, Ahmed. Yeah.
And you give it margin right.
Margin right.
Right and left.
And also a margin left. I'll take improvement suggestions in a second. Margin right. What value do I need to give to both my margin left and my margin right? 10 pixels each. Agree, disagree, shout out if you disagree. Separated by 10 pixels gutter between them. Yeah, it's not that clear, really, is it, from the wording, to be honest? But let's try 10.
The item 3, the bad, in the bad, use that class in the bad.
And then you want to put item 2
Yes.
as a separate class. Whoops, not items. Item 2 as a separate class up there.
That should work. That should give the gutter.
In this way.
Catty, what's up?
No, why he can you put the margin in the items? You know?
Can't you put the margin in the items? Well, no, because we only want it to apply to one of the items, right? So if I put it in here, I'm going to get margin there, double margin there, and single margin there. All right. Let's try Ahmed's method, see whether it works, and then we can suggest any improvements, or we'll change around the code as well, Cathy, and see why that didn't work.
It's not going to work because class is item 2, which should be item 2. In
What?
the actual HTML.
Why? Because don't we still want these styles to be applied?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, okay.
We want both styles to be applied, yeah? The item styles and the item 2 styles, which are just specific to item 2. Yeah? Let's try it. Okay, so that's a good solution. It's a working solution, yeah? Hey Vince, is that you? Yeah, hey Vince. CSS expert, by the way, coming in here. So Vince is very good at CSS if you ever get stuck and he's around. He's now gone quiet and sitting as far away from us as possible after I've said that. Straight into the hot seat. Sorry, Vince. I'm all right. I'm in control. Yeah, I won't. So, what were we going to say next? We were going to say Cathy's region, right? Cathy's suggestion. Why can't we just put these in the item? What will happen?
It's not going to fit. It's not going to fit what you actually want.
No, we're going to have two big margins, right? We're going to have a margin around every single element. Let's have a quick look what that looks like. You see this extra margin we've got here? Yeah? That's what that one's going to do, Cathy. We only wanted it around the bad. Could we simplify this a little bit? Do we need margin right and margin left?
Yeah. You can do its margin. So make it all one item again.
Make it all one item again.
So yeah, just item, div class item for everything.
Class item for everything. Oh, okay. Yeah, you don't want that. All right, interesting. What was your approach?
Margin. Within the item, sorry.
Yeah, I'm within the item.
Sorry, within the container.
Within the container. Ooh.
Sorry, you need a margin in both container and the item, sorry. This is my headset.
Right. Feeling we're making this more complicated than it needs to be, but go ahead.
I think we might be. And then 0 minus 5 px.
Oh, we're minusing values. Oh, yucky.
Semicolon.
Yeah.
And then in the item, do margin and do 0, 5 pixels.
I'm just going to put 0 pixels just so we've got a unit for everything. I don't like just leaving zeros there. They don't work with some animations if we just put zeros, so just be aware of that.
Yeah, actually there was a block in Chrome.
Uh-huh. Is that what it's because of? Is it? It's a Chrome bug?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. So Ahmed says if you miss the PX, then in Chrome, certain animations or transitions or whatever it is don't work. Right, so you also want margin, oops, here, let me just copy that. What sort of values do we need?
Certainly margin 0, it wouldn't be minus 5 px, it would be 5 px.
Okay. Yeah, I understand what you're doing, but it's not really a nice approach to me, right? We're putting 5 pixels to the left and right of everything, but because, yeah, and that will get us, does that actually work?
Let's run it, let's see.
Okay, it does work, but it's a little bit confusing for me to work out exactly what margin is being applied to each element.
The zero affects the auto margin, so it's not the actual margin.
The 0 affects the auto margin.
Whoa. The shorthand, is it top and bottom 0?
Yes, so
Yeah.
the shorthand order,
Yeah.
so if we only have 2 pixel values, top and bottom are going to be 0, and left and right are going to be minus 5 in this
That's for
case.
container.
That is for the container, yep.
And then on the item, it's 5 pixels.
And on the item it's 5 pixels. So what that is essentially doing is getting rid of these outer margins, yeah?
Yeah.
And only leaving the ones inside, but we haven't got a margin of 5 pixels inside, we've got 10 pixels because we've got it from both the good element and from the bad element, and then both the bad and the ugly element as well. So yeah, okay, it works, but there's a bit more going on conceptually for me, and I'd struggle to initially work out what's got margin and what hasn't personally, based on that. Yeah. So I wouldn't bother setting any margin on the container. We don't actually want it on the container. But then we can't just put 10 on there either. So let's roll back so that we have got an item 2. So all I was originally getting at was maybe rather than just having margin left and margin right, we could just put 0 and 10 like that. That's a little bit more succinct than Ahmed's one. Yeah, just
Bottom, right and left.
yeah, top and bottom, right and left.
Yeah, because we want right and left each. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I thought we were gonna, then I was like, it's gonna go mistake
And there's one more little improvement I think that I personally like a little bit better, to avoid using 2 class names. And I know Kate did this, and maybe some others. Kate, you still with us? Yeah. Do you want to suggest what you used instead of a separate class name? What did you use?
Yes, you can use item, and it's like, no, I don't know how to say, NTH chat, and in parentheses, I can't pronounce this word. I think you understand me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Number the item, what you need to change or specify.
Yeah, so what Kate's suggesting is we use a pseudo selector, and that's what anything with this colon in front of it like that is. Yeah, so we've got a normal selector, a class-based selector here, and then we've got a pseudo selector to make things more specific. In this case, we're selecting the nth child, so it's definitely an item, but how many items have we got here?
2, 3.
Three in total, yeah? So if we selected the nth child and the first one, yeah, then it would be this element. We want the second child, yeah? So we put a 2 in here, and then we want to apply the same thing, right? No margin to the top and the bottom, and a left and a right margin of 10 pixels there. That means I can get rid of my second class name, and they're still all just items up here, and I just write that instead. So there's not much difference, I agree, but personally I prefer this method.
It's much easier, even though I struggle to learn about the nth child. Nth child always start calculation. Okay.
Let's just check it works and I haven't made a mistake. All good still. Yeah. So nth child is a nice pseudo selector, just if we want to apply a style to a specific element, and we've already defined most of their styles elsewhere.
What if I want to apply div? Let's say the second one, div, not item.
The second div,
Yeah.
yeah, so will that select that one, or will, yeah, let's find out.
I mean the second div is the third. Okay, yeah, the way you calculate.
So you want to do div colon nth child, and you're saying use the third like that instead of the second item?
Yeah.
Okay, so good test, yeah. And we're going to do the same. What is it? Margin 0 pixels and then 10 pixels. Okay. Will this work? No. So what happened there? Oh, I think it's done. Applied it to that one instead, right? So it is in fact the second, because that was our parent and that was our child. I think that's the reason, right? So we're using nth child. Not sure about that. Not sure, but yes, we can apply a similar principle to any element. Yeah.
I will still use the item because item makes more sense.
Yeah, I think item's a bit more descriptive in this case. What of elegance issue have I got? Line 12, column 16, expected, single space, oh yeah, of course, right, just that. Yeah, beautiful. Okay, and then possibly the last question because we're running out of time, and maybe want to give you time to work on something else before you go home. Let's move forward.
The animation.
The animation, yes. So, in the HTML, everyone's groaning at this animation one.
We all struggle with this when I start.
So, body. Do I need to do anything to the body tag?
No.
No, I don't think we've really got any elements inside here. We're just styling the background by the looks of it. What do we actually need to do? Where's the question gone?
Just change the background color.
Here it comes. Yep, so we need to go from background of green, which we've currently got, change it to yellow after 0.2 seconds, change it to red after 0.8 seconds. Little hint there, please run the animation forwards only. Yes, you used a transition, right? And I used an animation. So I'm going to try an animation first because I know how to do that one, and then we will maybe have a go at doing a transition, or you can suggest the transition. Right, so with animations, in general we need what? What we're going to style it. We're going to style the body, yeah? Inside the body, usually we need an animation name, yeah? Always a good place to start. We could call it flag, or you could call it change background, whatever you want. I'm going to go with flag at the moment just because it's short. Yeah. What other animation properties can be useful or are usually required? Say again, sorry? Duration. Animation duration or just duration on its own? Animation duration, yeah. That's a nice way to say things. Animation duration. How long do we want this one to be in total? No. We want to do the whole thing as one animation. What have you suggested, Sonia? 4?
I can't read it. I think it was.
The only things I can see that we're testing are up to 1 second later. So therefore I'm going to make it 1 second. How do I do that? I just write a 1 and then give it some units, which is an S in this case. What have I done wrong? Oh, I've got a little weird one up here. Thank you. And I've got 2 names. Must have zoned out for a second there and started typing. Don't remember doing any of that. Worrying. Yeah, other things. We had a little hint. Please run the animation forwards only. So something will take a value of forwards. Anyone, any ideas what that will be?
Oh,
What? Animation 0.5 seconds is a property? Probably not. We've got a suggestion of direction. Not that I'm aware of. Fill mode, thank you, Esteban. Yeah, animation fill mode forwards. And do we need anything else? I don't think so for the animation. Maybe we just need to give it a starting value. So what do we originally want our background color to be at the very start of our animation? When the user opens up the page, what color? Yeah. So how would I set the color to green? Say again? Background? Background works, yeah. Let's set the background color, or the background just, as a shorthand, to green. Okay, I'm happy with that for the initial setup. We haven't actually done any animations yet, but we should have a green screen, and then we've created an animation name that we can begin creating an animation. My ability to speak is going, so I'm going to try and keep this short and probably the last one. So the tablet initially, definitely keep it the last one if we've lost the picture as well, because that's going to make things harder. Yeah, I know, but I wanted to prove it to you, right? Oh, now we've definitely gone. Yeah, I don't know, that was an error, I guess, on the back one.
Keep skipping.
Oh.
No, keep skipping.
Just skip and go back to it. So it was that one, right? The big green box. Okay, we've still got our code, which is nice. I thought we would have lost it. And we can see that initially, oh, we can't see that. Let's run the test again. We can see that initially we got a background of green. Nice, but unfortunately it just stays green at the moment. Yeah, green, green. So how are we going to animate this?
Keyframes.
At keyframes, nice.
Then flag.
At keyframes. And what are we assigning our keyframes to? What animation are we putting keyframes in? Yeah, I know you said it, Ahmed. I was just seeing if anyone else was paying attention. What did Ahmed say, everyone?
Flag.
Flag, yeah. Yeah, why flag? Because that's the name of the animation I've used here. So where does that go? It just goes there. Oop, not flap. No, definitely not flap. There we go, flag. And then keyframes, we essentially need to assign, what to call it. But in other words, at what percentage of the animation or what part of the animation. So you might have seen keywords like from, to, or you might have seen percentages, right? 20%, 0.2, things like this, right? I'm going to go with the percentages for now, but feel free to animate it in a different way if you prefer. So at 20%, do I even write it like that? 20%, it's like that, right? Yep. What color do I need at 20%? I think it was yellow, right? We're going green, yellow, red. So I can put the same property in there, background. Whoops. And this time I'm going to put yellow. And that one goes up. Where's it gone? Oh, it was there. Okay.
Because there's only two colors, is it not better if we use like 50%?
Well, it's specified here though, right? After 0.2 seconds, change it to yellow. So that's why I've used 20%.
So
20% of 1 second is 0.2 seconds. What's up for us?
80.
Yeah, so we could have one at 80. We want to change it to red. Alright.
That's it.
And that's it. What about at the end though? We usually need a start and an end point. So we've definitely got a start point.
Practice then.
But what happens at 100%? How does it know what to do at 100%? Green again? I think it needs to stay red, right? At 100%.
Is it supposed to say red or green? Go back to green.
Oh.
No, I think it's meant to be red at the end. I'm pretty sure it's meant to be red at the end. Let's just. Usually we don't put a. What's it for? The. Yeah. Okay. I don't fully think this is going to work, but it's going to be very close. Shall I just run it and see what happens for you, and then we can fix it? Okay, so the red seems to have worked. So definitely at the end we're displaying red. At the start we're displaying green. At 0.5 seconds we're also displaying red.
Is it the question? The question is different. It's also 0.2 seconds in the question, but actually an example is 0.5.
Yeah, I mean it's just the way the animation testing has been set up at the moment, yeah? So we're just taking a snapshot every half second rather than corresponding to these values down here. But yeah, I guess what we can gather from this is that at some point between 20% and 80% it has turned red. So we essentially still want it to be yellow until... Yeah, I'm curious if we put... I don't think that's going to change it because I think it's still going to transition to red. Oh, it must do, right? Because it's 0.5 seconds that we're taking it at. So I think we need to essentially put another yellow in there to hold on this yellow colour for a set period of time. We need to hold on this yellow colour from 20% until 80%, yeah? So between 0.2 seconds and 0.8 seconds is yellow. Otherwise, you're going to begin the transition from yellow to red after 0.2 seconds, yeah? So you just go yellow-red and it would change, or if you're doing a smooth sort of change, it would begin changing from that yellow colour gradually fading into red, yeah? So we're not going to get the correct colour. So I think we need to say hold on yellow between 20% and 80%, and then change to red and stay red until the end, right? Stay red until the end of the animation. And I think that will then work if I put a semicolon in there. Consistent. And there we go. Yeah. So to hold your animation and to stop any color changes, make sure you give each color point a start and an end point. Yeah.
Yeah, so it would be green until it gets to 20% and 20% to 80% it'd be yellow. Yeah, and then every other 80% is red.
If you don't put the 80, so then it stays yellow until it reaches 100?
No, if you don't put the 80, I think it will change from yellow to red after 20% has passed. Yeah, let's test it. But I think the middle one will now be red. Yeah. Yeah. What is weird, right? There we go. We've got red in the middle section, so that's why we need to say hold this background color. Ricardo might be able to explain it in a better way, to be honest. Like, it's not my forte, CSS, but yeah. So I'm not going to go too deep into the animation questions here. Do a workshop on that next time. It's yeah, not my area of expertise, but hopefully I've at least improved your knowledge a little bit on those sorts of things. Yeah. So look for the common properties that we might use for animations, and yeah, make sure you have some keyframes and you set where you want your animation to be at certain points throughout those keyframes, either using keywords like from and to, or using percentages. Yeah, those are the two most common ways. I would like to leave it there unless there are any additional questions. Sorry with all the faff and the fire alarm and this and that, but thank you for your attention as always. And yeah, there's not much until the end of the day, but just grab me if you need me for any additional questions. Cheers.
Thanks.